I've been a professional photographer for longer than I care to remember, about 30 odd years or something. And over that time, I have won numerous awards for my photography. I've also been told my photography is rubbish and I would never make it as a photographer. But would you like to know a secret that I've discovered over these 30 years of taking photographs? Hopefully this is the part where you said, of course I would, Alex. What is this secret that you have discovered? Well, despite reading countless books, following hundreds of tutorials, going to numerous workshops and being around some very knowledgeable photographers sharing their wisdom, there are only 3 techniques that I use when I'm taking a photograph. How's it? All of these ideas, that we kind of accumulate over the time of, our journey in photography can weigh us down. And I've touched on these points before, but I wanted to really drive home this idea that, like great cooking, great photography is simple. Relies on just 3 ingredients. In cookery, there's making sauces and reductions and foams and all the kind of like the very tricksy little things that you can do. And photography is much the same. You can take a photograph with very simple ingredients, or you can just chuck loads of stuff at it and really kind of make it more difficult than it needs to be. So over the years, I've learned these things, but I've pared it down. I've reduced it, if you want to think about it like that, to these 3 simple ideas, recipes, ingredients that I put into my photographs when I press the shutter. So my little photonauts, right? So what is the number 1 thing that I do when I pick up a camera and take a picture? Well, it's simplicity. I keep things simple. And yes, okay, I keep my exposures fairly simple and stuff like that, but this is not about exposures. This is about just looking at, being around somewhere, something catches my eye, I pick up the camera and I take a photograph of it. I don't overthink it. I don't, try and analyze what I'm doing. So I just go with my gut. Then I move on to the next thing that interests me. It's 3 steps. See something, photograph it, move on. When I've started doing that, it makes the process of photography more instinctive. Now, you don't need to have like a mastery of exposures and all that kind of stuff to be able to do this. It's okay to put your camera onto auto, or P for professional, right? You can use however you want it to do, so long as it just feels, or it allows your instinct to come out, right? Because when you start allowing that instinct to come out, it makes your photographs more you, right? William Eggleston, he walks around, picture, moves on, doesn't overthink about it, and just carries on. Now, his style, you may not appreciate it, but there are other people who may be photographing the same way that you do like. Street photographer, Joel Mivitz. Now, I used a label there, which we'll get onto in a second. He walks around, picture, right? That's just photographing instinctually. Try and think about that rather than trying to overanalyze images. Now, the second step, and I mentioned earlier about Joel Mivitz and the street photographer, is to just be a photographer. And to do this is actually quite simple. You pick up a camera, you go somewhere you want to take photographs, and you take photographs. Now, why is this different to being a landscape photographer or a street photographer, or wearing a label of some such? I've had labels that I've attached to myself over the years. And it boils down to, if you think about yourself as a specific kind of photographer, you are pigeonholing yourself into only looking for those kind of images. You will be a landscape photographer walking the streets of Manhattan, for example, and think, well, this is all street, man. This is not my thing. And vice versa, the street photographer walking the streets of the Serengeti the streets of the Serengeti, the well-known urban metropole of the Serengeti. You're driving over the plains of the Serengeti, and going, well, there's no street here, there's no action, there's no buzz, there's a life, and kind of, sort of missing the point of why we picked up a camera. Why I think I've picked up a camera over the years is just because I just enjoy taking photographs of anything. Sometimes it leans one way, other times it leans another way, but I've tried over the years not to bog myself down in these kind of just, I am a certain type of photographer. It also makes taking photographs a lot easier because you're giving yourself a license to just photograph whatever and wherever you are. Oh, okay. I'm just going to give a little brief interlude here because I want to just let you know about something that Tomasz from Frames magazine has put together, which you may not be familiar with. Frames magazine is a wonderful resource. It's much like the in-print equivalent of the Photographic Eye. They talk about photographers. They get photographers to talk about their processes. Not the nuts and the bolts, but the whys and why they're taking these images. And I love it. It's lovely to see a print version. But you can't just carry around a magazine with you all the time, can you? So Tomasz has put together a new app. Here you can access video content that they've got on the site. You can do some image sharing, so it's kind of like a private, I say a private thing. It's like Instagram, stuff like that, but without all the pictures of cats, things of that nature. Well, maybe there are some cats, but I think it's a wonderful way of being able to connect with inspiring photography. And if you are interested in taking up or getting access to that app, I'll put a link on the screen right now with a QR code that you can scan. And go check it out. Support Frames. They're a wonderful resource. I think it's amazing in this era of digital, how much they are making a name for themselves through the print medium. And now we get on to point number 3, which is one I think we need to kind of tread a little bit lightly with, because it could be misunderstood, right? And this is about other people's opinions. The other day, I was talking with a lady who's joined the cohort that I'm currently running, and she's fairly new to photography, and we were discussing one of her goals, which was to be like, how do I know if a photograph is good or not? And kind of we talked about the idea of like who first of all just defines if image is good or not. I feel there's 2 people in here. There's the photographer themselves, and then there's whoever looks at the image. Now, we as photographers are not really in control about how somebody else reacts to our photographs. So we can't decide for them if it's good or if it's bad. So why do we worry so much about whether or not people are going to like our photographs? This goes back to point number 1 about simplicity, about photographing without overthinking it. Just not worrying about whether or not somebody else is going to think it's good or if it's bad. Now, obviously, if you're photographing for a client or something, they need to know it's good. But I'm talking about the photographs that we're creating for ourselves. The ones that we can just look at and make the decision whether we like it or not. I don't like all of my photographs that I take. I look at some of them, and because I am just reacting and photographing instinctually, sometimes my instinct is wrong. Sometimes my instinct is an idiot, right? Like the shoes, okay? I don't know why I keep doing it, but I like the pictures, but I don't think they're particularly good. I'm the first to admit it. So my instinct is going wrong there, but that's okay, right? Because I'm still photographing other things at the same time. I'm just not getting bogged down in whether or not somebody's going to like these things. And an interesting thing happens when you stop worrying about whether or not other people like your photograph and you just focus on the ones that you like. You become more confident. You all of a sudden you kind of go, I really like this. I'm body work. I'm pleased with that one. I'm pleased with that one. I like this. Yeah. Alex Webb is a very famous photographer who takes some amazingly complicated and crazy images from an instinctive point of view. You know, he's learnt what works for him over the years. But he does say, out of 100 photographs that he takes, 99 of them don't work. But he has ended up with this fantastic collection of photography that's amazing. And he must look at it and go, that's great. The confidence that he has and the confidence that you will get for, you know, just going through and saying, I like this, I like that, leads into being better at photography. And the reason it does this is because it kickstarts a virtuous cycle. The more confident that you are, the more you're going to be encouraged to take photographs. If you're a chef, going back to that cooking analogy, and you're cranking out dishes that are like amazing, then you're like testing things out, and you're throwing things around, and I want you to be like these little photonauts, like a gastronaut, right? Just kind of saying, you know, I'm going to test things out. So you become confident, you take more photographs. The more photographs that you take, then the better your instinct for good images is going to become. And the better your instinct becomes, then the more that you are going to be pleased with your photographs. And of course, the more that you're pleased with your photographs, then the more confident you become, and the whole cycle starts again. It's pretty simple, isn't it? Right, why does everybody make it out to be so difficult? It's just, it's a wonderful way of, you know, pushing away everything in photography that weighs us down, that gets in our way of, you know, of just enjoying the process. Now, to help you enjoy the process more, become more confident in photography, finding your own style of voice, I'm outlining a new course that I want to put together as part of the upcoming 5-day deal bundle promotion, which is in October. At the moment, I have a bit of a course outline, which I'll put in the description box below. You know, I'd love to get some of your feedback, your thoughts about these. You know, what do you guys think about it? Is there something you'd like me to touch on? You know, this is more about the, you know, the kind of the thought processes of photography, finding some confidence in taking images rather than the nuts and the bolts of taking photos. Being creative takes a bit of bravery, sure, to get that process going. And if you want to learn how to become a little bit more brave in your creative processes, then check out this video over here. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you again soon.